Hello everyone, this is your coach of the Reno Glaceons, and I'm here to give my draft analysis for the Quick Ball Draft League Season 3. Quick Ball Draft League Season 3, or QBDL for short, is a quick 4-week long Wi-Fi league. Uh, so I use it to just try a bunch of mods I want to try, and I think I've got a solid team this go around. So going into our first pick, I was pick 12 overall. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, they allowed like the Urshifus, like those weren't gonna get to me, and they didn't. Like Dragapult's not gonna make it to me. Iron Valiant's not gonna make it to me. But what did make it to me, did the 12th pick overall, Big Palafin. And this is actually the second season in a row where I have gotten Palafin. Last season it actually fell to me at 16th pick. Um, so I'm familiar with this mon. I'm sitting there looking at the board and I'm like, I can't let this fall down any further. This thing is a fantastic wall breaker. Uh, and it's a really good mon to start building around. And so I'm like, this is something good to build around. Uh, it's decently bulky. What I found out last season is that you can also run it pretty comfortably as a mixed attacker. Because of its access to moves like Boom Burst and Grass Knot, which lets it kind of push past the physical walls that would try to wall it previously. And so 100 base speed is good for it. It's got debatably one of the best priority moves in the game in Jet Punch coming off its 160 attack stat. So, really excited to use this mon again and see how it goes. So for my second round pick, I was actually really looking at Meowscarada to give me a fast pivot mon that you can kind of come in, that lets Palafin kind of come in more freely. That gets sniped for me at the wheel, which isn't a big deal. What is sitting there is not quite as fast, but is a pivot for me. Raging Bolt. Uh, this is the one I've wanted to try forever at this point. And if I finally get the opportunity to, and what this is, it gives me a nice like a good, nice speed tier for a pivot. It's decently bulky, so like if I need to, I can pivot into Raging Bolt from Palafin. If say like a grass type wants to threaten Palafin, I can go into here. And thankfully, because of its it's part dragon typing, it can switch in, take the hit, and then threaten it out with like a Dragon Pulse or a Draco Meteor, depending on what mon it is. Uh, this gives me another strong breaker or a setup sweeper if I want to run like booster special attack and Calm Mind. I can run it with Assault Vest and kind of eat like the special hits. Or it's another nice flexible mon that'll kind of help out. It's a good pivot for Palafin. So that's my round 2 pick. Round 3, I really wanted to prioritize a good rapid spinner because Palafin and Raging Bolt typically don't want to run boots as their item. So being able to remove hazards consistently would be always going to be very important. And what I ended up getting was Excadrill. Excadrill, great rapid spinner. It's my first stealth rocker. Um, the great typing of ground steel, offering a bunch of resistances. This also lets me hit fairy types for Raging Bolt to be able to spam its dragon moves more freely. Um, it allows me to use Mold Breaker if I want to use Mold Breaker. And it opens up an avenue for potential Sand Team later down the road if I decide to go that way. It gives me speed in between Raging Bolt and Palafin, which is a nice thing. This thing can be ran bulky, it can be ran offensive, Scarf, Band, Life Orb, uh, Leftovers, Assault Vest, whatever. So, again, another nice flexible mon that I can use freely here. So now for my fourth round pick, I really want to get something fast. And because I didn't get Meowscarada round 2, I want something fast to be able to kind of force more speed tier prep in the builder. And for me, that mon was Iron Boulder. Um, Another mon I've wanted to try for a while. Gives me that nice speed tier at 124. Very strong physical breaker. Access to Mighty Cleave, Close Combat, Earthquake, Mega Horn, Iron Head, Poison Jab. Really good booster mon, really good Scarf mon, really good Banded mon if I want to do that. And I hear people calling this thing a fraud all the time, and I really want to try it out, see if it lives up to the fraud allegations or see if it can beat them. So now, at this point, looking at this team, a good grass type just kind of comes in and sits on a lot of what my mons want to do, which leads me to my 5th round pick and my first Terra captain, being Terra Moltres. Moltres is a mon that I've used in the past and I loved using. It wasn't a Terra mon, so I'm excited to try it out. Terra-wise, we could choose 3 typings. None of them had to be stab, so I went ahead with Dragon, Grass, and Fairy. Dragon is a great defensive type for Moltres. It resists like the water and electric moves that would normally come in and threaten Moltres, while still keeping its resistance to grass and fire that it would normally have. Grass is great for water matchups specifically where I need something other than Solar Beam to hit super effectively. Gives me a ground resist, which I also need. So if Moltres Terra grasses, I still have ground counterplay. And then Fairy is just a good neutral typing for defensive and offensive purposes. Really lets me hit Dragon super effectively. It lets me resist fighting still and all that. Next mon, I'm looking at my team. My only hazards so far is Excadrill with Stealth Rock. And I really don't want Excadrill to be my only hazard setter. So, next mon I pick up in round 6 is Overquill. Now, this gives me a Spiker. Spiker and a T-Spiker. Gives me a mon that can use Toxic. It also gives me my Grounded Poison, which is great because I don't want to be forced to later on to grab a low-tier Grounded Poison and kind of be disincentivized to bring it because it's not a great mon. Overquill is a great mon. It's another mon that really helps with this grass weakness that my top 4 have. Very bulky with Intim if I want to run Intim. Poison Point some weeks maybe. But this gives me my Spiker. It gives me a Psychic Immunity, which isn't the biggest priority because I already have 2 pretty solid Psychic resists in Iron Boulder and Excadrill. But having the immunity helps. It's another ground weakness, which isn't great for me, obviously. But Moltres should help, and there's another mon later that should also help with that. But yeah. So because I kind of spent very heavily in the first 4 rounds, I kind of have to go more budget for the rest of this draft. And I needed a fairy. Budget fairies are already not great, but I didn't want to have to go down very low. So what I ended up grabbing was Alchemy. And Alchemy is actually really nice for this team. It gives me a good, like an actual specially defensive wall. Its HP stat isn't great, but its special defense stat should be able to help out with that. Alchemy is great, actually. I think people sleep on this mod because it has the ability Aroma Veil, which stops it from being taunted or encored specifically. Which means this thing, if my opponent doesn't prep enough for it, this thing could come in and just be stored power, acid armor, and like Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, blah, all that. It's very strong against Recover. It gets Light Screen. I don't think it gets Reflect. No, it gets Light Screen, but it doesn't get Reflect. But this thing helps out my special defense. It's not very fast, but it doesn't need to be fast for what it does. And I think this is a good low-tier, like, budget fairy option. So looking ahead, round 8. I have a pretty big speed tier gap in between Iron Boulder and Palafin, being my 2 fastest mons at the moment. and I kind of want to fill in that spot. And then this next one also gives me more hazard removal, and it's my second and final Terra Cap in Chinchino. So Terra-wise, I ended up going with normal grass and ghost. Grass overlap on both my Terra Caps, but I think grass is a really good Terra type for Chinchino. Um, and 115 speed, it's my second Mon above 110 speed, which is a really important threshold on your team. I prefer to have more than one Mon above that threshold. It's not necessary. It gives me a normal type, which it's not the bulkiest normal type in the world, but it gives me access to Tidy Up, so it's a secondary hazard removal option that's not Extra Drill. So if I face like Goldango, I can still remove hazards in front of it, and maybe revenge with, or not revenge, it forces out with a potential Terra Ghost, Terra Blast. Terra Ghost is great on this mon. It really gives it really good coverage. I don't think there's anything that resists both Ghost and normal. No single typing at least, unless something's slipping my mind. So it gives really good offensive like Skill Link, Technician, like Technician, Loaded Dice, Tail Slaps are gonna hurt. Technician, Loaded Dice, Bullet Seeds are gonna hurt. Gives me a good knockoff mon, which my team was actually lacking up to this point. So this kind of gave me a lot of roll compression that I really wanted initially. Now, look at this team. My only rocker is still Excadrill, and I really wanted to fix that. And it's another ground type that I get here for my rocker, but it's a ground type that gives me more than just rocks in Hippowdon. Now, Hippowdon is great here. It's a very good, like, neutrally bulky physical mon. So it kind of, I have the special bulk in Alchemy, and I have more physical bulk between Moltres and Hippowdon. But what Hippowdon really offers me in this team is Sandrush. Or, sorry, Sandstream, so I can activate Sandrush for Excadrill. So this would be great. So people have to be worried about maybe a booster speed boulder and then Sandrush Excadrill on top of that. So it lets me play. So I have my like a more normal style of team, and then I also have the option of Sand Offense, which I think could really overwhelm some teams. Gives me another rocker, gives me a slack off womp, gives me something with a roar. Gives me a very good neutrally bulky mon, very, very bulky. This thing doesn't die in one hit a lot of the time. Sand also gives my Boulder a special defense boost, which helps more with my special defense. And yeah, so going into my last pick, my only mon that resisted ground is Moltres, which actually I'm into it. Now, Hippowdon is a mon that can come in and take most ground moves for most ground types, but it doesn't really want to. And I'm also missing a spin blocker for my Spiker and my Stealth Rockers. So I'm looking at all the plethora of Grass Ghost types, and the one that really fits in a Grass Ghost type I am personally a fan of using is Trevenant. What can I say about Trevenant? It's very good. It's actually very deceptively bulky mon with access to Horn Leech, Leech Seed, Synthesis, and then it has Harvest for like a Citrus Berry set. I guess Drain Punch. And it also has a really good ability in Frisk and Natural Cure. It has 3 pretty solid abilities. Harvest being a little bit more niche in specific matchups. But this thing, I've used this before, and I've just made it sit in front of offensive teams. Because people don't often prep for this mon and think, oh, it's a 4-point shit mon. It's not going to come. And they have nothing to break it. Like, they'll have a dark type, and it'll just die, and they won't have anything to break this. But, yeah. Anyways, that'll be my team for the QBDL Season 3. Thank you for watching, and Week 1 will be up very